that he's still, being treated for cancer. He's still kind of officially suffering from cancer. We never quite knew exactly what kind of cancer he's got, but we have let it forgotten that this guy is bravely carrying on his duties, even going abroad while going through this treatment. And obviously we would hope that this isn't some kind of a relapse, so that it is fairly routine. But as you say, back in hospital, that would be, I would suggest, partly because, as you quite rightly say, he's a man in his 70s and you can't be too careful there. But perhaps he's been working too hard, I don't know, but very early stage of here. But this is quite worrying, isn't it?
Well, it is very worrying. It is worrying because we don't know exactly what happened with the cancer, and he's had continued treatment from them, but from that time. But sometimes it just keeps the body in the right place. It doesn't mean that they're trying to sort of get rid of more and more cancer. It just means they're trying to keep everything calm and keep a close watch. I know several people who've had it for years and they've lived very happily like that. On the other hand, I'm not a doctor and I don't know him that well to ask. And you don't quite know what it's doing. And I think sometimes the blood goes up and down and they need to add things or not have so much. Because I think if you do have this treatment, however regular it is, that the body will suddenly say, oi, too much, not enough.
Well, let's not forget, Angela, that his family, Camilla in particular, they've been begging him, slow down. He had to be told, to cut back on some of his duties, because you know what he's like. He is a workaholic. He's devoted to his duties.
Well, we did hear, didn't we, just a couple of days ago, that they weren't going to Italy. They were going to see the Pope. And then when he wasn't well enough to see them, they decided they would still go to Italy. But then they said they're not going.
Yeah. Well, it might be... could be connected to this, and if you just bear with me, I better read out exactly what we're getting here. This is from Buckingham Palace in a statement. Following scheduled and ongoing medical treatment for cancer this morning, the King experienced temporary side effects that required a short period of observation in hospital. His Majesty's afternoon engagements were therefore postponed. His Majesty has now returned, that's good news, has now returned to Clarence House, and as a precautionary measure is acting on medical advice. Tomorrow's diary programme will also be rescheduled. His Majesty would like to send his apologies to all those who may be inconvenienced or disappointed as a result. So that's just filtered into the info. Good that he's back in Clarence House.
Yes, it is good. It makes a huge difference, doesn't it? And then they think, there's something gone a bit wrong. But then they obviously dealt with it and they said, right, you're well enough to go home. And they wouldn't have allowed him unless he really was well enough. And no, that's a very good feeling.
That is. So our very best to His Majesty the King, back in Clarence House. Well, if we could return after that short interruption to what I was going to ask you about. I want to talk about Harry, Prince Harry. By the way, Prince Harry, a constant worry to his dad, to his poor old dad. But this charity meltdown we've seen in Africa, his charity, in which he suddenly dramatically resigned yesterday. This is a charity he formed way back in 2006 to honour his mother, because what this charity does is it looks after kids affected by HIV and AIDS, mostly kids who've lost their parents in Africa due to those conditions. So it does good work, but all of a sudden, in a big row apparently about, we're told, about revolving around racism, misogyny, bullying, and something called a word I hadn't heard of before, misogynoir, which is hatred of black women. He's suddenly resigned. I mean, this seems to be a hell of a shambles. What do you think is going on?
Well, it is a shambles, isn't it? And I think it hasn't worked with the new woman who's been in charge, Dr. Sophie Chandorka. They just haven't got on well. And everyone else on the board have also resigned. So, it's not just Harry stalking off. But can I just read you what she said?
Yeah, but I was going to do it myself, but you do it. I've read enough quotes for one night. You go away.
Okay, she said, there are people in this world who behave as though they are above the law and mistreat people, and then play the victim card and use the very press that they disdain to harm people, to have the course of challenging their conduct. Now, that's very interesting, because you can, I'm afraid to say, see Harry in that might be what she's actually saying. That
well, that's Harry. That is directed at Harry. There's no doubt about that, obviously.
Yes. And so she is, in a way, the first person who's really attacked him like that, has actually gone out and said exactly what she thinks. A lot of people are a bit scared, or they don't want to do that. This is a real bollocking, isn't it? By a very clever woman.
Yeah.
And, that's what he's got to deal with. But I do think you said just earlier that, what's gone wrong? Everything's gone wrong for him. Yeah. And I think, in my view, that actually it's very difficult if he's in Africa, he wants to work in Africa a bit, and he's in America all the time. It's very hard to do that. And I also think he's completely crushed by his wife. And I do think that if people bring out the worst in you and make you feel that you're nothing, and you've got to walk behind them and do nothing, and you're told off every time something goes wrong, you feel you can't do these sorts of things, actually. And if somebody actually is there to make you feel terrific and well and encourages you, then you're very good. But with Meghan, it's me, here I am, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I don't want to know you. I don't want to know you. I want to do it on my own. I want to be a billionaire on my own. Yeah. She keeps sending me away. And I think he's a mess anyway. But when you hear a woman going on that to you, and you still, in one way, love her, but you don't quite understand it, because one minute she's kissing him and hugging him and putting her face in his neck and all that. And in a minute later, she's screaming and shouting and telling him off. So he never knows where he is. So that could be some reason why he wasn't doing things so well.
This Sophie Chandorka, by the way, there were two princes who were the main trustees of this charity.
Yes, that's
right. Prince Harry and Prince Ciso of Lautoka.
They get on very well, very well, because they both lost their mother in a car crash.
So
they have a closeness for years, since 2026.
So they've both quit in unison, and I gather other trustees as well. But Dr. Sophie Chandorka, the chair, who's obviously fallen out with Harry spectacularly, she's clearly aiming her anger at him. So far, he hasn't really responded. But the reason I wanted to talk to you, Angela, especially, is because, of course, you know Harry. You spend a lot of time with him, and you wrote your excellent book, Harry, about him. So my question really is, it does seem at the moment, if you look at his life, everything he touches seems to go wrong. He's got kind of the opposite of the Midas touch, because this isn't the only African charity that he's connected with that's got big problems. He's got another charity called Africa Parks, which is involved in serious allegations that rangers who work for that charity are accused of raping tribal women, sexual assault, and also only this weekend, they apparently moved a load of elephants from one area to another, presumably for ecological reasons or something. And these elephants went on the charge and charged through some village, and 10 local people were killed. So this charity, Africa Parks, which Harry is also connected with, is also mired in serious controversy. So it just seems everywhere he goes, trouble seems to follow. I mean, is he just a bit useless? Is that the problem?
Not really. I think I was with him for about 15 months, so I do know him quite well. And I think that he doesn't know where he is now, because I think he wants to make Meghan feel very happy about him, very pleased with him, and he doesn't feel he can do that. That's my idea. And if you take away someone's ability to do something by your nagging or by not being nice about them or expecting them to walk behind you, they just can't do anything. I think he's in a terrible downtime, because even when it's the Invictus Games, and that's the last of the three things,
Yes.
Meghan's taken that away from him, that she gives the speeches, she does all this, she has the cameras focusing on her as she kisses him and hugs him and makes him look absolutely ridiculous. And so he's got nowhere. He can't come home. He's lost his friends. A lot of people don't want anything to do with him now because he's behaving so badly towards the royal family. Terrible mistake with his book, Spare. And so I think he's really lost, and he's so resentful. And that comes out very negatively and that sort of black.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Royal Sussex Squad, where we bring you the real truth behind the headlines. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're not holding back today. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel, hit that super thanks button. Now let's get into it. So, the royal commentators and tabloids are at it again, folks. King Charles goes into the hospital, and instead of focusing on that, they drag Prince Harry into the mix as a so-called constant worry to his father. Seriously, let's break it down. King Charles is undergoing cancer treatment, and we all wish him the best for a full recovery. But do we really believe that Harry, who has been minding his own business in California with his wife and kids, is the biggest problem in his father's life? Please. If anything, Harry is the one who has had to deal with constant attacks, betrayals and smears while still managing to build a successful career outside of the royal institution. And of course, we couldn't go a day without Angela Levin, the royal family's favourite fiction writer, spewing her nonsense. According to her, Harry's decision to step down from the charity Centre Bailey is some massive failure. But let's get the facts straight. Centre Bailey was Harry's passion project. He created it in 2006 to help children affected by HIV/AIDS in honour of his mother, Princess Diana. It's not just a charity, it's a legacy, and yet the media is twisting it into some scandal. Why? Because a woman who's barely been involved, Dr. Sophie Chandorka, decided to throw shade, really? She made a statement implying that some people act above the law, mistreat others, and play the victim card. Now, who does that actually sound like? Not Harry, but the royal establishment and their so-called experts who thrive on putting people down. Let's not forget, the entire board of the charity resigned alongside Harry. That tells us one thing. This was an internal power struggle, and Harry simply chose to walk away rather than be part of a toxic environment. But that's not enough for the British press. Oh no, they had to drag Meghan into it too. Angela Levin, in true tabloid fashion, claimed that Harry is crushed by Meghan and that she's somehow holding him back. Excuse me? Let's get this straight. Meghan is a strong, accomplished woman who built her career before she even met Harry. Together, they've launched successful initiatives, from the Archwell Foundation to their Netflix and Spotify deals. Meghan isn't crushing Harry, she's standing beside him, just as Diana wanted for him. But the UK press can't stand a confident black woman succeeding, can they? And then, to top it all off, they're trying to connect Harry to some controversy with the Africa Parks charity, where there are allegations against the organisation's rangers. Let's be clear. Harry is not involved in the day-to-day operations of these charities. He lends his support to conservation efforts, but he is not responsible for incidents on the ground. This is just another desperate attempt to tarnish his reputation. So let's summarise. King Charles is sick, and instead of talking about his health, the British media has decided to blame Harry for being a worry to his father, despite the fact that he has no involvement in royal affairs. Misrepresent Harry's departure from Centre Bailey as some dramatic failure when it was really an internal dispute. Continue their racist and misogynistic attacks on Meghan, painting her as the villain in Harry's life, and attempt to drag Harry into unrelated charity controversies to make him look bad. It's tired, it's pathetic, and honestly it's predictable. The bottom line is this. Harry and Meghan are living their lives, doing good work and building their own future. Meanwhile, the British press and their so-called royal experts are obsessed with bringing them down. Why? Because the Sussexes refuse to play their game, and that drives them crazy. If you're tired of the media's nonsense, make sure you're subscribed to Royal Sussex Squad, because we're here to set the record straight. Hit that like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and if you'd like to support the channel, send a super thanks. Until next time, keep supporting the Sussexes and stay informed. See you soon.